Beyond success, the revolutionary ecosystem model. Black women entrepreneurs are building. Good morning, everyone. I stand before you today profoundly transformed by a recent conversation that has fundamentally altered how I understand entrepreneurship, community, and what true success looks like in our world. I had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Bernika Green, a visionary whose work has created ripples that are becoming tsunamis of change across our economic landscape. Bernika isn't just documenting the rise of Black women entrepreneurs. She's illuminating an entirely new paradigm that challenges everything we think we know about business success. Her research, her advocacy, and her unwavering commitment to amplifying voices that have been systematically silenced has created pathways where walls once stood. She embodies what happens when brilliance meets purpose, when someone refuses to accept the status quo and instead imagines something more powerful, more inclusive, and ultimately more transformative. We've all been fed a particular narrative about entrepreneurship, haven't we? The lone genius working in a garage, the solitary visionary who, through sheer force of will, creates something from nothing, the individual who stands apart from the crowd and changes the world through singular determination. It's a compelling story, dot comma, comma, comma. It's also fundamentally incomplete, dot comma, 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 and increasingly it's becoming obsolete. What if I told you that the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs in America isn't following this model at all? What if I told you they're completely rewriting the rules of success? Here's something that might shock you. Black women are currently driving the fastest growth in entrepreneurship in the United States. They account for nearly 90% of net new women owned firms being created daily. That's not just impressive, it's revolutionary. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. Dot comma, comma, comma. According to Bernika Green's groundbreaking research, their success isn't primarily a story of individual achievement. It's about something much more powerful, much more sustainable, and much more disruptive to our traditional understanding of business. It's about building collective ecosystems that amplify opportunity for entire communities. This insight shatters everything we think we know about entrepreneurial success. We've been taught that business is competitive, cutthroat, a zero sum game where your win is my loss. But Black women entrepreneurs are demonstrating something profoundly different, that the most sustainable path to success involves creating infrastructure, mentorship networks, capital access channels, and support systems that empower not just themselves, but everyone around them. Think about that for a moment. Dot, comma, comma, comma. What if the true measure of success isn't just what you build for yourself, but what you build for others? Let me share three key insights from Bernika's research that illuminate this paradigm shift. First, collective ecosystems matter. Black women entrepreneurs are redefining business success by focusing on community driven infrastructure. They're leveraging mentorship, capital access, and peer support to scale not only their ventures, but those of others around them. This isn't charity, it's strategy. It's recognizing that a rising tide truly does lift all boats and that your own venture becomes more sustainable when embedded in a thriving ecosystem. Second, resilience translates directly to growth. Despite facing higher denial rates for funding and systemic barriers in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, Black women owned businesses have achieved an average revenue increase of over 32% in recent years. This isn't happening despite the challenges. In many ways, it's happening because of them. The adaptability and innovation required to overcome these barriers become powerful business assets. Third, visibility fuels inspiration. The rise in successful Black female founders is inspiring a new wave of entrepreneurship. Greater representation encourages more diverse teams and drives better business outcomes through varied perspectives and creativity. When you see someone who looks like you succeeding in spaces where you've been told you don't belong, it changes what you believe is possible for yourself. Let me bring these principles to life through stories of women who are embodying this revolutionary approach. Consider Natalie Madeira Caulfield, founder of Walker's Legacy. This national professional collective supports multicultural women entrepreneurs across America. Caulfield recognized a critical gap: the lack of accessible mentorship networks tailored to the unique needs of Black women founders. Rather than simply lamenting this gap, she filled it, creating city based chapters, offering workshops, networking events, business accelerators, and digital resources. The results? Walker's Legacy now serves over 40 U.S. cities, has empowered thousands with capital access strategies, and has increased visibility for members' businesses. But perhaps most importantly, it's helped shape policy conversations around inclusive entrepreneurship and amplified economic mobility within local communities. The name itself tells a story. Walker's Legacy draws inspiration from Madam C.J. Walker, America's first self made female millionaire, a Black woman who built her fortune in the early 1900s. Caulfield launched this network after recognizing persistent gaps in mentorship during her own entrepreneurial journey. By connecting her work to this historical legacy, she reminds us that today's entrepreneurs stand on the shoulders of those who came before. Then there's Jewel Burke Solomon, co founder of Part Pick. Solomon created a visual recognition technology to streamline parts identification, a solution born from her personal frustration while working at an industrial supply company. As a young Black woman founder with no prior exits or high profile backers, she faced significant skepticism from investors unfamiliar with her market segment. Did she give up? No. She got strategic. Solomon leveraged accelerator programs like Techstars Atlanta, built strategic partnerships with industry players, and focused on customer validation early rather than relying solely on outside investment. This approach eventually led to successfully raising over $2 million from notable investors before being acquired by Amazon in 2016. Solomon became the first African American woman founder whose startup was acquired by Amazon. Today, she serves as head of Google Startups US, overseeing diversity initiatives across tech sectors nationally. Her journey demonstrates how resilience paired with strategic community building can break through systemic barriers and inspires other underrepresented founders to pursue their visions. Or look at Morgan DeBon, founder of Blavity Inc. In 2014, DeBon and three co founders, all young African American professionals, launched a media tech company to amplify stories relevant to millennials of color via digital platforms like Afrotech and Travel Noir. They faced formidable challenges. Breaking into mainstream media dominated largely by non diverse voices while bootstrapping initial operations due to limited investor interest. Why? Because their leadership didn't fit typical Silicon Valley profiles. Their response was brilliant. Rather than trying to conform to existing models, they focus intensely on an audience first content strategy, leveraging social media virality. They built partnerships within HBCU alumni networks and culturally aligned brands rather than waiting for traditional VC backing. The result? Blavity has raised over $9 million since inception from mission aligned investors such as GV, Google Ventures, and expanded reach across multiple verticals, including conferences and events, attracting tens of thousands globally each year. The backstory is equally compelling. Debon recognized a void when she noticed culturally relevant news wasn't being shared widely enough online among peers at Washington University St. Louis, which led her team to launch Blavity from their living rooms. Today, it's one of America's leading platforms centering diverse millennial voices online, with millions engaged monthly. What these stories share is a fundamental reimagining of what entrepreneurial success looks like. These women aren't just building businesses, they're building ecosystems. They're not just creating products, they're creating possibilities. They're not just serving markets, they're transforming them. This approach challenges our most basic assumptions about business. We've been taught that the path to success is individual achievement, competition, and self interest. But what if the most sustainable, most impactful path is actually through collaboration, community building, and collective advancement? What if the true innovation isn't just in the products or services being created, but in the very model of how business can function? As a force for community empowerment, this isn't just a nice idea, it's producing measurable results. Despite receiving less than 1% of venture capital funding, Black women entrepreneurs are demonstrating extraordinary resilience and growth. They're not waiting for the system to change, they're changing it themselves, building parallel structures that serve their communities while creating sustainable businesses. As Bernika Green emphasized in our conversation, this approach isn't just good for these entrepreneurs and their communities, it's good for our entire economy. Diverse teams consistently outperform homogeneous ones. Different perspectives lead to more innovative solutions. Inclusive businesses reach broader markets more effectively. So I ask you today, what would happen if we all adopted this model? What if we stopped measuring success by an individual achievement alone and started measuring it by collective impact? What if we recognized that our greatest strength lies not in what we can achieve alone, but in what we can build together? I challenge you to leave here today and take one concrete action toward building or joining a collective ecosystem. Mentor someone who doesn't look like you. Invest in a business founded by someone from an underrepresented group. Share your knowledge, your network, your resources with those who have been systematically excluded, because the revolution that Black women entrepreneurs are leading isn't just changing business, it's changing how we understand success itself. And in doing so, it offers us all a more sustainable, more equitable, more powerful path forward. The future of entrepreneurship isn't the lone genius in the garage. It's communities of brilliance, supporting each other, lifting each other, and transforming our world together. The question isn't whether this model works. These women have already proven that it does. The question is whether the rest of us are brave enough to follow their lead. Thank you.